Yeah, I think he's good. Training? Yeah.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, Ishwar.
Okay. So, uh, good afternoon. My name is Eeshwar, and I will be presenting to you today on best practices for engaging members during COVID. Um, and as part of my presentation, there's going to be a lot of engagement, and I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. So I'd love for you to throw some questions, throw your answers into the chat. And we'll also be using Slido to put together some word clouds and see what everyone is thinking. So, an overview of what we're going to be presenting today. I'll tell you a little bit about who I am, and then I'd really like to understand what you would all like to get out of this session. We'll talk a little bit about acquiring members, about retaining members, about how technology can help us, and all of the best practices that I've come across as a result of COVID and the lockdowns that have happened all around the world. And then finally, we'll talk about passing on the baton, especially when some of our members do leave. Now, over to the right-hand side, you can see the Slido information. Please feel free to use your phone, or if you have another browser, go ahead and go to sly.do and enter in that number over there. And as we go along, we'll come across some slides and we'll have some questions for you to put in your thoughts. So, who am I? I'm a member of the Rotaract Club of Subiaco and a member of the Rotary Club of Elizabeth Quay. I've been a dual member now for 2.5 years and a Rotaractor for 9. On top of that, I also sit on a number of committees and in a number of positions. So the first of those is I do sit on the Rotary International Membership Committee, and I'll be there for another 2 years. I'm the Rotaract District Representative for 9455. I've been in that role for 2 years now, and next year will be my final year. I'm also the District 9455 Youth Director, which I was very lucky to take on just this year. And I also sit within our MDIO, the multi-district organisation Rotaract Australia, as a non-executive director focused on training. So my first question to everyone is, what do you want to get out of this session? I know that we're talking about best practice, but you as an individual from your particular club, what is it that you're really interested in learning more about? We've covered a little bit of what I plan to talk about, but please throw your comments into the meeting chat, and then I can use that to help guide me in terms of what we're going to cover.
Hi, Rotractors. Please use the meeting chat very wisely. Please throw all your questions. What do you want to get out of this session? Yeah.
Okay. So I'll give you a chance to do that while you're putting your items into the meeting chat, and we'll hop on to the first of our topic areas to cover. So acquisition. Acquisition is all about how do we bring our members into our organization, right? Typically speaking, what we tend to see is that most members come in due to personal connections. It is usually a one-on-one relationship either between the potential member and a Rotarian or a Rotaractor that usually helps to bring new members into our organization. So from that perspective, what I would really like for people to tell us is why did you join Rotaract? Why did you join Rotary? Why did you come to join our organization here? Okay, so I'm starting to see some of those comments coming through now for what you're looking to get out of this session. about how the world is coping with the present scenario of COVID and how you can create an engaging club. And also, how can we engage our members virtually and retain them within the club? So, some of the items are coming through. Why you join: self-development, leadership development, service, fellowship. What else do we have? Exploring your passions, building your networks, to develop personally. So this is also what we see when we look at the data that's coming from Rotary International. Recently, there was a survey put out to our Rotarians and Rotaractors all over the world. And the top 3 things that we saw that Rotaractors were interested in engaging with and why they were joining Rotaract and Rotary was because they wanted to give back, they wanted to make friends, and they wanted to learn and develop and grow personally. Yeah, so networking is a big thing that's come through now, learning from people, giving back. Yes, all of that is great. So please keep throwing your answers in there, and we'll hop back over and we'll start talking a little bit more about some other things. So when we talk about membership and about bringing members in, there's a question as to who's responsible for bringing in new members. And this is a theme that you're going to see with my slides and a lot of this presentation, is that I will share with you some of the things that we have done here in Australia, and I will share with you much more than that, questions that you can ask yourself, questions that you can take back to your club and to think about how it is that you're engaging with these different aspects of the membership journey, all the way from someone being a potential member through to them leaving the club at some point. So this first question, who's responsible for bringing in new members? Please throw into the chat whoever is responsible from your club, whether it's a membership director or the president or whoever it might be. Please put that into the meeting chat as to who is responsible for bringing in those members. I love that answer, everyone, and I agree with that one. So I guess the example that I want to give here is actually from my Rotary Club, from Elizabeth Key. And so the Rotary Club, the way that it works is that typical membership director role doesn't really exist within our club. Instead, what we've chosen to do is we've chosen to adopt a process based on two statements. One of those is inspiring generosity, and the second one is facilitating generosity. Okay, we've got board members, we've got every club member, that's great. And the way that this works within my Rotary Club is that the board members play a specific role within that membership induction, membership engagement piece. And the specific role that they play is that once there are people who are interested, they reach out and follow up and help support a new member come into the club itself. But ahead of that, every member is asked, hey, do you know anyone? Is there anyone that you'd like to bring along? How can you go out and get new members coming into your club? Now, I know during the pandemic that can be difficult, right? We can't go out, we can't meet people, and it's harder to do some of that the way that we've done it before. But what I want to talk about later is about how we can actually perhaps do that in a way that it doesn't matter whether you're meeting them in person or meeting them online. So, who's responsible for bringing in new members? A lot of you have said every member, and I agree with you. Every member is responsible for bringing in new members. What the board members can really do is to help support new members that are coming into the club, orientate, and be inducted into how the club operates. So one of the things that can really help you to bring in new members into your club, even in the middle of a pandemic, is by telling your Rotary story. Okay? All of us have a Rotary story of some kind. Doesn't matter how long or how short a time that we've been here. The longer we've been here, the more likely we have that Rotary story. That's something that we can just pull out of our pocket when we need to. So I'm going to share with you my Rotary story. The story that, for me, when I looked at, going and telling people what it is that drew me to Rotary and has kept me in Rotary, it's this. What's something I really enjoy? It's traveling. But I don't really want to, I want to go to places and new places and places that I've never been before and I don't know anyone. To be honest, as a Rotaractor and a Rotarian, it's really hard to go anywhere in the world where there isn't another Rotaractor or Rotarian. But the thing that really showed me what Rotary was and what Rotary could be for me was attending the Rotary International Convention in 2016. So I went to Seoul in South Korea as part of a program that was trying to get young leaders over to the convention. And I walked in on the first day to the convention center that they had there, and I saw in front of me 35,000 Rotarians and Rotaractors. I have literally never been in a place with like 35,000 people before. So that was just massive. Like just the number of people and everyone getting together. Everything looked really big and really overwhelming. And yet coming into that, as soon as I stepped into the crowd, everyone was so welcoming and joyful and so thrilled to be there and to have us there as well as Rotaractors. So that, to me, that showed me what Rotary can be. And ever since then, I've been able to travel all over the world. And when I've traveled, everywhere that I've gone, I've met up with Rotaractors and Rotarians. And they are just as generous as they were when I went to that convention in the first time. And that is what makes Rotary for me, knowing that I'm part of this organization that is so widespread that anywhere that I go, that I have access to this wonderful network of people. So what are some tips that you can use to try to tell your Rotary story? And how can you use that to then go ahead and engage members? Because they exist outside of that. They haven't had that Rotary experience necessarily. And so for them, they start looking at it and go, okay, there's volunteering and there's friendship and all of that kind of stuff. But they're not sure necessarily if it's for them yet. They're not yet willing to make that commitment. So a couple of tips are on the screen. They are really, keep it simple, right? What's that one thing that's really important to you? For me, walking into a crowd of 35,000 people and feeling like it was home, not like I was somewhere lost on the other side of the world and there was no one there to help me. 2, tell them where it was, when it was, what you were doing. Give them the context for what was happening in that time. 3, how did it make you feel? Right, that's really important because they can't necessarily understand or empathize with, where it was or what it was. They might not have done that before. There's a lot of new Rotaractors here who've never been to a conference before, but they can understand how you felt. And that's a really important part of that story to tell. And finally, talk about why that was important to you, right? Because then your potential member can really look at that and say, okay, I see why that's important to you. I can see what might be available for me as well. So telling your Rotary story is a really useful way to connect with people, whether you're connecting like this through the web or you're connecting in person. So for those of you who have a Rotary story, would you like to throw your Rotary story into the meeting chat? I would love to read them, and I'm sure that others would as well. Another really interesting question is to think about where your members come from. Okay, so for example, my first Rotaract Club, the Rotaract Club of Roscommon, the initial members were actually from the graduating class of the Interact Club at our high school. So they'd already been part of the Rotary journey. They already knew what they were getting into when it came to Rotaract. And they were passionate and they were really energetic. The problem was, once that first group of members came in, we didn't go back to the Interact Club and the next group of interactors and continue to engage them. And that meant for about 3 or 4 years, we actually ended up missing out on so many potential members who could have joined our club. Instead, we went out and we focused on the membership that we had available just through our friends and family and networks and stuff. And that's not a bad thing. Bring your friends into Rotaract. I mean, we have fun. I'm sure that they'll probably have fun too. But our friends and our families and our workplaces are, in a sense, limited. There's only so many people within those networks. And depending on where you work and what you're doing, where you're studying, it's not always the case that that group will grow enough or change enough that you'll constantly be able to go back and find new members coming through there. So we really need to look into what are the sustainable sources of membership that we have available to us, right? Where are those sources where there are always new people coming in, there are new people leaving, that we can go and say, hey, here's an opportunity for you to continue doing something that you've enjoyed. Or here's an opportunity for you to do something that wasn't available to you before necessarily. So I love this story that's just come in. I was lured by Rotaract due to a vibrant friend circle. I started to engage with a wider network of people, and travel is a great aspect of Rotary and Rotaract. I absolutely love traveling. I've been to as many conventions as I can get to. The last one that we were able to get to in person was in Hamburg, and I had an amazing time there. So yes, I have made so many friends, and it's such an amazing network to be a part of. So when we look at possibly sustainable sources of membership, then what could those be? School, if you're based at a university or a college-based club, if you're on campus, then there's always new members potential members coming through, right? You've always got new people coming to school. And that's a great place to go ahead and find new members. There are different challenges with college-based clubs. You want to make sure that your executive doesn't all work together and then leave together. But as long as you can deal with that, having that sustainable source of new members coming through, perfect for a Rotaract club. But outside of a university or a college, what happens if you're a community club? Well, we've got all of these amazing Rotary Youth programs. I was very lucky. I got to go on a whole bunch of Rotary Youth programs when I was younger. Our RILA program might be a little bit different to your RILA program. I'm not quite sure, but here, our RILA program is for 18 to 30-year-olds. So prime Rotaract age. So we try to get as many of those RILarians having finished RILA to come along and join us in our clubs. And one of the ways that we do that is that we've put on a physical social when we can. And when we couldn't put on a physical social, we've put on a virtual social to try to engage those potential members as well. Get them to interact and engage with our Rotaractors and just show them that we're really nice people and we'd love to see them be there with us. So Rotary Youth programs, if you have them available in and around where you are, great opportunity for you to engage with them and bring them into the rest of what Rotary has to offer. And then your networks. So this doesn't just have to be, the people in your immediate network, your friends and family. We've already talked about the fact that they're kind of a bit limited, but they probably know other groups of people. Right? Is there another youth program that's running in your area that you could reach into? Is there perhaps a business which has a lot of young people in it who could really benefit from the professional development that Rotaract provides, and also provides them with that opportunity to give back, but maybe they're not engaged right now. So there are opportunities that exist within your networks, and even if you're just starting and you don't feel like you have a big network, then know that the individuals that you do know, whether that is your parents, your extended family, your friends, they know people as well. And that network capacity, basically, that exponential capacity to reach out, that's way more powerful than you think it is. There are plenty of opportunities, even within just your small network, just a handful of people that you might know, that you can really find a way to engage with them and get them involved with what we do and with their communities. Oh, I'm hearing that, well, I'm reading that you can't hear me very well. Is that the case?
It's good for me. Um,
Yeah, it's good for
yeah,
me as
it's
well.
good.
Yeah, it
Okay.
could be the network issue.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so one of the comments that's come in is going to talk to a manager. Businesses are a great opportunity to show people what it is that you have done as a Rotaractor, and to share with them what opportunities would be available for their young people. There's so many leadership opportunities and so many opportunities for a business to accelerate the leadership development of their employees through not only programs like RILA, but also through Rotaract. So if you're approaching people who might be in charge of others or employing others, then go ahead, sell them all of the wonderful professional and personal development opportunities that are available through Rotaract. And now, how do you do that? We go back to the stories. You want to share your Rotary story. Talk about some part of your Rotary journey in which you grew professionally and personally, and that will help connect that person to what we're doing. Okay. The next topic that we're going to talk about is retention. So, whilst bringing members into a club is usually associated with an individual personal relationship, retaining members is really based on what is the club environment like, and how does that club environment help to support new, current, and older members as well. So we're going to hop back into the Slido. We're going to go on to the second question now. Thank you all for the first one. And what I'd love to know is, why have you all remained a member of Rotary and of Rotaract? Right? It might be the same reason that you put down as to why you joined Rotaract. For me, I'll go for it.
Yeah, sorry. Everyone who's not familiar with Slido.com, please go to Slido.com and type the code that's written underneath it. Else, you can also scan the QR code that's available on the top. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So for me, I really joined for professional development opportunities. That's what I was interested in. I just finished a leadership program at my university, and I wanted to give back in some form or another. Why have I stuck around is because I've made friends everywhere. I have friends in Canada, I have friends in Europe, I have friends in the US, I have friends in India, I have friends in the Philippines. I just have met so many amazing people from all over the world, and have this amazing opportunity to just share ideas and to talk about Rotaract and Rotary with all of these amazing people. And for me, that's really what keeps me here, is all of the other members that I know and that I've gotten to know over the past 9 years. Okay, because Rotaract is addictive, loving the people, good changes, learning and exploring, leadership growth. Absolutely. These are all great things. Wonderful. Thank you all for all the comments that are coming through. Okay. So please keep putting your comments in. We're going to collect all of this. But for now, we'll just move on to the next slide. So this is a little bit different everywhere around the world. But when you start looking into what is the Rotaract experience all about and what's the Rotary experience all about, this is something that's been found universally across service organizations. In Birmingham, Alabama, home to one of the largest Rotaract clubs in the United States. They call it learn, socialize, and serve. Here in Australia, we've called it help, learn, and enjoy. And these three core pillars are really what help drive membership engagement and retention within the club. And we're going to talk about each one of these different pillars in more detail now. So to begin with, help. Help is all about how we can serve our communities and each other. So the question that I have for everyone who's here is what you want to do personally and what the club is doing collectively aligned, right? Are your personal goals aligned with your club's goals? And feel free to throw your answers into the meeting chat. We'd just love to understand whether that you feel that your goals and your club's goals are aligned. But this is worth taking back to your club and asking as part of doing that club health check and saying, okay, well, you know, our club right now, our members want to do this, but we're actually doing this. And we'll talk about partnerships in a moment. And sometimes it goes, well, we've said that we would do this with this partner, but none of our members are really interested anymore. The people that were interested and were really passionate and driving it have left. They've moved on to Rotary, or they're currently taking a break, or they've had children and other priorities have come into the picture. Lots of reasons can come in. So, is what you want to do and what the club is doing aligned? And if it isn't, is this then an opportunity for you to look at what the club is doing and better align that with what the members want to do? If you're able to do that, then the thing that you no longer have to worry about is motivating your members, right? Still need to push and prod them a little bit. We're lazy. We're humans after all. It's how we tend to be. But that core drive to see something change, that will be there from day one if you're aligning an individual's personal goals with the club's collective goals. So an example within my Rotary Club again is that we had recently a catwalk event. And that catwalk event basically brought together young models and op shop fashion. So donated clothes, which get sold by charities. And they ran an op shop fundraising fashion show to go ahead and help out a charity which helps prevent young people at risk who are in a problematic situation and supports them transitioning into a better place. Okay, I'm seeing that some people are saying that yes, it is aligned, and that's great to hear. So, how is this aligned? Well, one of our members was really passionate about homelessness and really passionate about young people. So she said, we want to do this. Another member was really passionate about op shopping and being sustainable and trying to reduce as much waste as possible. And a third person was actually really passionate about engaging young people and the arts. And so these three came together and they formed the core project team to deliver this project. So not only were they able to achieve this, deliver this wonderful fashion show, give these young models an opportunity to practice what they were, the practice for an industry that they were going into, but They also raised almost $6,000 for that local charity to help support them as well. And this was done by a group of 3 people plus some helpers over the course of just 3 months. From start to finish, that was their team size. And that's an amazing accomplishment for just a group of 3 or 4 people from within the club. And it's not just about what they can do individually as a small project team, but about how they then engage the rest of the club to come in when they needed it. So the rest of the club came in and joined them, swarmed in a sense, to support them on the night, in the prep just beforehand, and with the marketing as well. So by aligning what the club was doing with what the members wanted to do, it really helped drive all of our members to engage with this project because they had passion, and that passion wasn't lost because of the grind. How can we find out what our members' personal goals are so we can actually align ourselves to them? Well, the easiest way is to ask. Now, if you have a lot of members, that's a lot of individual conversations to have. So surveys, opportunities like that might be the best way for you to engage with your members and find out what it is that their personal goals are. Putting up polls, bringing in speakers to talk about their particular charities. These are all great ways to help provide that stimulus for those members to go ahead and figure out, hey, this is something that I want to pursue. In a lot of cases, we're young, we haven't seen everything in the world. Those opportunities to bring in external contacts, to bring in those people that can help spark something different, that's really what can potentially change what a person sees and what they think they're capable of. We'll touch on that point again a little bit later. Learn. We can't be what we can't see. Now, this is true both within our club and outside of our club, right? So what roles are you in within your club? So if you want to go ahead and throw that into the meeting chat, that'd be super great. Are you an executive member, president, secretary, treasurer? Are you a director, professional development, community service, international service, public image? Or are you a member? Perhaps you're a project lead. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear what role you're currently in the meeting chat. But the reason to think about this is we're going, well, if we want to see our members remain within the club, then how do we show them the way forwards and what's possible and available to them? We bring our members in, they're general members, we orient them, we induct them, and they understand the basics of what Rotary has to offer. It takes a little while to get involved and get invested in everything and start to see what those opportunities might be. So if we look at our entire membership, then we can look at basically kind of 3 tiers of people who are members. You have those people that have joined. They're your members. They're participating in events, but they might not be directing projects. They might be on a project team and they're helping support a project lead. That might be who they are. The next tier up, you've got people who are project leads, and they're the ones that are helping work on and support projects that you've already done before, projects where, you're comfortable as a club with what it is that you're doing. And then the final tier of members that we can look at are the members that are finding those new projects for them to engage with. Cool. Apologies. Those members there are really looking at, well, how do we do what we do within the club better or different, or how do we increase our impact? And they're looking at, what are the new ways that we can operate? That's one way to look at your club. The other way is you can look at your club based on the different roles that they might be in. They might be a general member. They might be a director on the board. They might be a part of the executive. Now, the big thing that we want to keep in mind with all of this is that think about when, for all of those people who've put in that they are in or taking on these roles for the next year, think about when you were a general member and how much you knew or didn't know about the roles that you're moving into now. So, how much did you feel that you needed to know? How much more confidence did you need to be able to put up your hand and say, yes, I would like to take on this role because I think that I can do something in this role and I think I can help in this role? Those gaps are what we want to try to cross. How do we bridge those gaps? And I think the main way that we can do that, and this is what can help us to retain members within our club, is to really look at increasing visibility, right? So some tips for this: invite your members personally to come along and join into those higher level discussions and decisions. So if members are involved in a committee, but they might not see all of the decisions that are being made by the board, then those members that you think might be potential board members, bring them along, have an open session of your board. You can do your board business for half, and then you can have an open session where, you know, the less critical, less confidential matters can still be discussed, and those potential board members can see what that really looks like. Do it collectively. One of the things that my Rotary Club does when it comes to project planning is that the very first bit of project planning always happens with as many club members as possible. So how do we do this? We organize once a quarter a planning sprint, essentially. We use the Agile framework, we use a lean business canvas. And the whole point of this is to say, well, let's generate some very fragile ideas and then let's grow those out into a plan. But let's do that together in the same place, right? Everyone breaks up into small groups. We all work on these projects together, and then we present those project ideas back out to the club. People can then go around, have a read, find the project that they're really interested in, and sign up to that one and say, yes, that's a project that I want to help with, that I can help with, that I know somebody who can help with that. By doing it collectively, not only do you help develop and provide that upskilling amongst the membership for how they can go ahead and run this kind of session and help with not only within the club for this kind of project brainstorming, but at work or in their own lives. You also make that project planning visible to everyone. Everyone understands and has come along that journey of saying, well, this was the idea and this is how we got to this actual project plan. Obviously, the project group will then meet up after that, and they'll take that plan and take it forwards and turn it and deliver it into an actual project. But by doing that first step collectively, it helps to generate buy-in from the members, because the members know this isn't a project that one person has brought into the club. This isn't a project that, you know, has been thrust upon us. It's a project that we collectively decided to put our effort into planning, and it's something that we really want to pursue. And the last one is do it regularly. Whatever kind of opportunities there are for members to see beyond that gap, right? Whether it is for general members who are not on committees to see what's happening in a committee, to see what's happening in other committees, or for committee members to see what's happening in the board and at the executive. Do that regularly so that, you know, people might miss something, but people also know that this is something that the club does. And by doing this, more of your members may say and may look at this and go, that's an opportunity for me, and I feel that I can step into that role. Maybe not this year, maybe not next, but I think that in a couple of years, I could be there and I could be doing that job. And that's great for us, because the more people we can bring up that pyramid, the more opportunities there are for those people to really go ahead and own and take on ownership of helping support your club and your club members. Okay. Externally, look at your partnerships. Find those groups of people, charities or service partners or professional development partners that align not only with your goals as a club, but also align with your values. How do they work? And does that work with how you work? Plan together and execute together. Why is this important? When you plan together, like I just talked about, it helps to generate buy-in, and you want to make sure that you and your partners are working together to do that. Case in point, think about your relationship between your Rotaract Club and your Rotary Club. If perhaps it's not the best relationship, perhaps one way to get around that, one way to build closer bonds with your Rotary Club is to work on a project together. Whether it's a project that the Rotary Club already has or one that you already have. I know that it can be difficult at times, and that it's not always the case that the right people end up coming onto these committees. But with patience and a bit of diligence around who's being involved, I really think that if you don't have the best relationship with your Rotary Club right now, that having these opportunities to go ahead and plan and execute a project together will really help bring both of your clubs together as well. And finally, reflect and celebrate, right? You might work on a project with your community partners, but when it comes time to celebrate everything you've done, it's changeover season right now, invite your community partners along to your changeover. Let them see all of the wonderful things that your club does, and show them what other opportunities that there might be for you to work together in the future, right? It's not just an opportunity to thank them and say, thank you for being a part of what we've done and being able to work with us to achieve what we've achieved, but also to show them, hey, there's a lot of us here. We're a great group of people, and we'd love to keep working together with you into the future. And the last bit is enjoy. So we're going to hop back into Slido. What is fun about being a member, right? Like, what is it that you love getting out of Rotaract? What is it that you want to see other people get out of Rotaract? What is it that makes it fun for you? So please hop onto Slido. Again, if you haven't been on here before, go ahead and use the QR code or join at slido.com and put in that code. Okay, we're getting some answers through. We've got team bonding coming in. Okay. So what about for me? For me, it's getting to have all kinds of weird conversations with people. Like, they throw out ideas, I throw out ideas, and then we start mashing them together and we start figuring out what exactly it is that it could be. Satisfaction, learning, bonding, great. Fellowship, yes, just getting to spend time with people. So, there's a really critical question that we need to answer in this presentation is going to be, how do we use technology to help support us? So you've all told me what it is that you find fun about being a member. And I'm going to move on to the next question now. So here's the next question in the Slido. What are you missing out on because of lockdown? Is it meeting up with people in person? Is it being able to do hands-on service activities? But what is it that you're really missing because of lockdown? Fun, physical meetups, physical conferences. Okay, meeting with other members, bonding amongst the members. Meeting in person, interaction. Okay. Thank you very much. So the question is, what can technology enable and what kinds of technology do we want to use? So right now we've got Teams, and Teams is a great platform. The first thing is communication. We want to be able to communicate with each other. And so what my Rotary Club uses is a program called Slack. Now you can use Teams, you can use WhatsApp, you can use whatever you want to. But the purpose of that communication channel is twofold. One, it's a place for you to put information so that it isn't sitting in people's heads, which means that, two, your members can spend more of their time using that information to do things than trying to find the information in the first place. If you have a centralized store of that information, then that technology then allows you to communicate more effectively because everyone can be on the same page faster. Now, what else can you do online? You can help build community. How do you build community when you can't be in the same room as each other? Video calls is a great start, but I know that we are all dealing with Zoom fatigue. We don't want to sit in front of our computers the whole time, right? So, where appropriate, have your video calls, but make sure that you know exactly what purpose those meetings serve, right? You need to make sure that if there's a meeting for a reason, then that reason is being achieved. That purpose is being achieved. Otherwise, your members are just going to get bored. They're going to be like, oh, we're having another meeting again. Like, I don't know why I'm there. I'm not contributing to this meeting. The other thing that we can do with technology is that we don't just have to sit and talk to each other, not like this anyway. There's a great platform called AirMeet that I've been using. We used it for our conference. And AirMeet allows you to not only have a big meeting space and a stage and where you can present from, but it also gives you tables where you can break out into smaller groups. Now, the difference between this kind of a breakout and say a Zoom or a Google Meet breakout is that you as the user can control which group you end up in. Whereas typically on a Zoom or a Google Meet, whoever's the owner or the organizer of that meeting will just break you out into whatever small groups you want to. And that allows you to just hang out with some of the people in your club, and you can rotate that around, right? You don't need to see everybody all the time. And a lot of the time, you're just sitting there on mute, right? Like, it's not like you're talking or anything. You just sit there, so other people talk, and then it kind of moves on. So using stuff like AirMeet and other platforms that have that capability of breaking out into small groups and hanging out with individuals that way, that's a great way to break up the monotony of what would otherwise be a very similar kind of meeting structure. The other thing is to find ways to engage online that are cheap and free and fun. What my Rotaract Club has done during our lockdowns has been to play online games. And this is stuff like Scribble.io, or just drawing games, or the Jackbox party games that are really simple. They don't really require a lot of computer power or anything like that. And one person will share their screen so we can see it. And then the rest of us will just join in. A lot of the Scribble.io games and things like that, you can hop on your phone and just draw with your finger. And we all get to have fun in a way that's really easy and doesn't really have a very high barrier to entry. So similarly, find those activities that make sense for your members. Perhaps instead of playing games online, that might be making stuff together. One of our clubs, what they've done is that there's a program here called Warrior Mail. And with Warrior Mail each month, they find a child who's currently in hospital, and they ask people in the community to write cards. So my club, so this club I should say, they got together online, everyone bought their own cards, and then they decorated the cards and chatted and just drew the things and showed each other what they were doing. So when you're getting together, community is about getting together. It doesn't matter how that is the case. And it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing necessarily, as long as you're all getting there and enjoying whatever it might be that you're working on. So when we think about what technology can enable, think about all of the opportunities to connect is what technology can enable. It can't substitute the opportunity to catch up in person, and we know that, right? But it can take us a lot of the way there, and that can hold us out until we can catch up together in person again. And we will get there. We will get to a point where we can all meet in person again. It might take a little bit shorter, a little bit longer than we thought, but in the meantime, let's find ways to use technology to enable us to connect whilst we can't get together in person. Last point here, be deliberate, right? So when it comes to using technology, make sure that whatever technology you're using has that purpose. I talked about this in terms of meetings. It's the same in terms of technology. Don't throw everything into the same place, right? Use different tools for different purposes. Not everything is a hammer, and not everything that you're going to hit is a nail, right? So use your different tools for different purposes, and you'll find that people will want to engage more with that technology instead of just being Zoom for everything, which I'm sure that we're all tired of by now. The last topic that I want to cover today is passing the baton. So we do know that members leave, and members do leave for lots of different reasons. So my last question to you for today is, why do members leave from your club? What reasons have they given when they have left as to why it is that they have left? So when it comes to my past Rotaract club, I've now been a member of 2 Rotaract clubs where all of the members have ended up leaving at some point without any new members being there. And so in the first one, it was really because they weren't doing projects. They had started with great projects and all that kind of stuff, but it was really being only driven by 1 or 2 people at a time. And it wasn't a whole of club effort when it came to those projects. People really only came in at the very end. They didn't feel like they had that buy-in. So as I told you before, make sure that that planning is really open so that as many members from your club can really buy into a project and help them to engage. So here are the things that are coming through, not what they expected: busy with a job, dissatisfaction, studying abroad, their priorities changed. And yes, that is the critical one. For us, a lot of the way that we talk about Rotary and Rotaract is we go, how much does it cost? And that's a bad way to talk about Rotary and Rotaract, because the cost is a cost. People will find a reason to pay the cost if they see value in what we have to offer. So what we should really talk about when it comes to what Rotary can offer for new members is what value can it add to their lives, right? What value can it add to their businesses? What value can it add to their careers? What value can it add to their families and to their communities? If we talk from a value perspective, then people will make Rotary and Rotaract a priority as part of their life because they can see exactly how it's adding value to them. But priorities do change. People have children, they get married, they move away for a job, whatever it might be, they finish their studies. And so when they do move, we can still be a part of that transition when they do leave our clubs. Now, that transition can be that they're leaving in a planned manner. They know that they're moving away for work, or it could be unplanned. Something has happened, they can't be a part of the club anymore. But there are some tips that can help us to help support these members when they leave. The first thing is, especially if it's planned, start early, right? If you know that somebody's moving away, going to another city, going to another country, help them get in touch with the club over there. If you know months ahead of time or years ahead of time, in some cases, somebody has a plan, I want to go here and study here, then why don't you reach out, find a club over there and start a project with them? Have that person be the person that liaises with that club and helps organize that project and develop that part of their network before they head over. Now, when they head over, they'll know some people there, which will help them. They might even join that Rotaract club, or that Rotaract club might help them find another Rotaract club or a Rotary club over there that they could join. And then for you, you now have a member who's in another country that you can work with whatever Rotary or Rotaract club they've joined, right? If we start, and I guess the idea is really, you want to fill your well before you want to draw from it. In a lot of cases, external factors tend to fill our wells for us, but this is one of those times where we can really act to fill that well and then draw from it in the future. Help support that person who is planning on leaving to transition to their next club. Help them find out who's there. There's the Rotaract Couch Facebook group, which has Rotaractors from all over the world who are happy to help find you a club. fingers crossed, it won't be too long before Rotary International puts out a great club finder on My Rotary for all the Rotaract clubs as well as the Rotary clubs. And that'll be another resource that you can use to go ahead and find clubs for when people decide to move on. The second thing that you can look at is easing into it. If somebody is planning, especially if they're planning on leaving, let's say they're 6 months, then perhaps you can start before, once you know that that's the case, and start looking at how you're going to do all the handover and transition and making sure that everything gets handed back to the club. Unplanned exits, it can be much more difficult, most certainly. Somebody just leaves, they don't talk to you, you don't hear from them, and they have details about what the club is doing. You can prepare for that by trying to keep everything centralized wherever possible. Use a password manager for your passwords. Have that central database, your Google Drive or your Dropbox, where you keep all of your files. All of that can help with unexpected transitions. But for them, it's also, they've got that jarring aspect of leaving as well. Like, they've been a part of your community and your club. So the last point is true regardless of whether it's planned or unplanned. It's just to stay in touch. All right. Once they've left, even if they haven't joined another club, stay in touch with them. Check in on them every couple of months, every couple of weeks. It depends on what your relationship is with that member. But by doing this and, knowing for them that Rotaract is here, it's always open for them to come back, or they can always go in for Rotary, this isn't a bad thing, right? People will take breaks. And what we really want to see is that even if they're taking a break or if it's not their priority right now, that they feel good about Rotary and Rotaract, and that in the future, when they think about, hey, how can I go ahead and give back in my community, their thought goes, hey, there's probably a Rotary club here. Or, hey, there's a Rotaract club here. I should go and find them and see if, there's a way that I can get involved with them and also help out this community that I'm a part of. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. I do apologize for the technical issues that delayed us. Are there any other questions from anybody who is attending the session today? Please put them into the meeting chat and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, I'll move on to my contact details on the next slide.
Yeah, so today actually we're having some kind of technical issues. Even I cannot type the question from the desktop. I can only type it from my phone. So there's some kind
Apologies. I can't quite hear you, so give me one moment.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
It's on my end, so give me a second.
Okay, no worries.
Let's try that again.
Yeah, so we're kind of having a technical issue. Microsoft Teams is not with us today. Even I cannot type the questions in my desktop app, but I'm trying to do it from my phone. So I guess it's the problem with a lot of people because a lot of people have been sending me queries. So if you can send, please send them in the chat because I do see that there are a lot of people who have been sending queries and questions. And for me personally, I think that I had not looked at a certain aspect of Rotaract and the virtual side of it the way you presented it. For example, maybe using multiple apps for multiple events and like having the diversity so that people can actually enjoy the differences that are there. And also having a central database, how important it is. And personally, we've not used Slack in Nepal, I think. I mean, and I would really try to bring that to my club at least and try to spread it around. And also, I guess we've been looking at the downside of people leaving the club, but like you said, it's very important to actually connect our members who are going to leave in the future to another club so that a partnership can be there forever, and that can be a great boon to the club. And I really appreciate the learnings that I'm getting from your presentation. If anybody else does have any questions or any queries or anything as such, you can please type it on the chat, or or else he has given his email there, so you can also shoot it there. Yeah.
So please feel free to contact me using my email. Please note it might take me a little bit to get back to you. It is really busy over here right now, especially with changeover season. So it might take me a couple of days to respond to your email at this time. But I look forward to hearing all your queries, and I'd love to hear, especially for those who weren't able to share their stories in the meeting chat, what your Rotary story is.
Yeah.
So at this stage, thank you everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your assembly.
Yeah, I would like to present you a small token from our side. Just a moment. Yeah. If anybody has any queries, please add it so that, yeah. I'll be sharing my screen now. Just a moment. If I'm able to, that is. This app has not been friendly today, so yeah. Unfortunately, there is an issue. I'm sorry I've not been able to present it, but I will definitely share it with you very soon. We have a small token for you, and thank you so much for your presentation. I really think that everybody enjoyed it, and thank you once again for your presence. Yeah, and I have also added the session link to the next session that's happening, so please follow the link that's in the chat. Yeah, we have a person writing something. How do you recommend to reach out and plan with other clubs as an international service director? Please share some tips.
Okay, so at least I can speak for Australia. The first step would be to try to reach out to the district Rotaract representative. Now, in many cases, you may hear back from them that the recommended path is to actually reach out to the Rotaract clubs themselves. And this really depends on the strength of the district that you're reaching out to. In districts that have a lot more members and have the capacity to have an international director at a district level, they might be in a better position to really help connect you with the right club for your particular project. In other districts, the recommendation might be given that you reach out to each of the individual clubs alone. Now, at least for Australia, we do have a club finder that's available at rotaract.org.au. I'll put that into the chat as well. And using that club finder, you can find the contact details for almost all of the clubs here in Australia. And if you reach out to individual clubs, they are then more likely to be able to go ahead and engage with your particular international project. In general, most of the districts here are relatively small when it comes to the Rotaract district itself and the number of people on the district committee. And so they are usually not in the best position necessarily to act as a district and help support an international project. But they might be willing to pass you on to a club that can help support, or they might request that you reach out to the clubs directly. At least here in Australia, that's typically what I've seen. I hope that was helpful.
Okay, does anybody else have any kind of questions for him? Please throw it in the chat. Okay, I guess we're done for today. Thank you so much for your presence. I was really impressed by whatever you said. And at first glance, I was like, whoa, this guy has done something in Rotaract and Rotary and in personal life as well. And being able to listen to your experiences and your learnings from your club to our club it really means a lot. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.